Less than 2 weeks away from the US election, and it's taken another dark turn. Donald Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly, who is himself a retired Marine general, has claimed the former president meets the definition of a fascist. We can hear his comments to the New York Times now.
But certainly the former president is in the far right area. He's certainly an authoritarian. Admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Mr. Kelly also claimed the Republican candidate said Hitler did some good things.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
Mr. Kelly made similar comments in another interview, claiming Trump had said he wanted to be surrounded by the kind of generals Hitler had. Trump's team have said Mr. Kelly totally beclowned himself with these debunked stories and suffers from a debilitating case of Trump derangement syndrome. But yesterday, Trump's opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, leapt on the alleged comments. Let's see.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
Harris was later asked by the journalist Anderson Cooper if she would use the term fascist herself to describe Donald Trump.
You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted.
It is hotting up, isn't it, Paula?
It is hotting up, but there's no surprise there. You know, with Trump, you're going to get a show, and it's an ugly show, isn't it? And, again, no surprise that Kamala has said what she has said, because quite rightly she points out, well, who are the people who are saying these things? It was the people who were around him at the time.
Do you believe that he said these things?
Well, that's what his closest confidants are telling us.
Because he denies it. His people deny it.
He denies it, but he's on record standing up, isn't he? He was at some whatever forum, some debate, and he stood there and said, I'm going to be a great dictator. He's on film saying that.
Well, I don't know. How do you take it, Russ?
Well, I mean, you've got to remember that he is a very successful businessman, a former president, a billionaire. And when you're in business, I'm often reminded of Sir Alan Sugar in this country. You're very, very strong, very, very driven. You know exactly what you want. And if people don't do it for you, it's the highway. Now, his ticket is, once again, make America great again. Aren't the Democrats awful? 12 days to go. It's quite something to call somebody a fascist. And Mr. Kelly, of course, hasn't declared whether he's going to cast his vote for Kamala Harris. So actually, the reality is, it's a retired Marine Corps general who said this. But as Jeremy, you said, do we believe him?
Well, it's
getting dirty.
Trump's defence is always, I fired the guy, he was useless, he was the worst guy we've ever had. That's what he always says the same thing, right?
Even though he employed him for 2 years.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the dictator clip. Let's just have a look at Trump saying that.
He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
Well, you take that as a bit of a joke.
Yeah, I do.
Isn't it a joke, Paula?
Well, let's take something that isn't a joke, which I say does kind of add to this definition of dictator. We have somebody who has tried to create a tribe. The Republican Party is no longer a party in its recognised form. It has become a tribe. It has become a movement. And that is something very much about what a dictator likes. He wants his followers. And it's all about power by force. And we saw that power by force unleashed, didn't we, in January 2021 when we saw the attacks on Capitol Hill, when there was this suggestion that that Trump had lost the election, when we know, of course, he didn't.
Okay.
And that continues.
I'll just let me just say we have got a response from Trump. It's on social media, and he says, "Comrade Kamala Harris sees that she's losing and losing badly, especially after stealing the race from crooked Joe Biden. So now she's increasingly raising her rhetoric, going so far as to call me Adolf Hitler and anything else that comes to her warped mind. She's a threat to democracy, not fit to be president of the US." Her polling indicates. The background to this is it's not Trump who's panicking here.
No.
It's the Democrats who suddenly think it's sliding away.
What are all these people going to do when he wins? And, you know, if you follow the odds with the bookies are saying that he's going to win.
I do not know. I think it's 50-50 still. There's a comment from Trump. I think this is Trump on Harris. Let's have a look.
We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries.
So he was criticised for that because it is classic right-wing talk, that to say she's the enemy within. The Democrats are working against the country like the communists were accused of doing.
And it's worse than that, isn't it? Because it's kind of reinforcing this whole kind of cult view that he has. I want you to feel fearful of your next door neighbour. I want you to carry your gun against your next door neighbour, because if your next door neighbour is voting Democrat, then they are somebody to be feared because they are the enemy. He is not hiding from that.
Do you think he's going to win?
Yeah. Be close. I think he's going to win. And America, to my mind, has a problem. Its standing in the world is not what it was. You've only got to look at what's going on in the Middle East. America used to click its fingers and Israel did what it was told. Doesn't happen now. They're drowning in debt. They have all the same problems that a lot of Western countries have. And, you know, it's how do you sort it out? Yeah. And Americans will get their vote in 12 days. I think he might just win.
I think he might.